Hi, I'm Kim Montagnese. I'm a quilt designer and fabric artist, and I would just like to share with you today a technique that at first glance it probably looks a little bit intimidating, but I'm going to try to help you today to see that this process is really not that difficult when you break it down step by step. So today I'm going to be showing you the wall hanging that's over here on the wall, and I'm going to do it a little bit differently. This is a project that uses a technique. So there's not a specific pattern with measurements. There will be directions on the website. However, this is a technique that you can use for a lot of different things. So on this particular project, I knew that I needed to have pictures, a specific theme, with a specific theme. So I went to the craft store and I bought myself this cute little wooden frame. It's just a plain little wooden frame. And I went to my go-to model's home, and I asked her, would you please pose for me? You know, do a couple cute little poses in the frame. So we did about 30 pictures, I think. And after I had my pictures in the computer, I went through all of the pictures. And I chose probably maybe 9 pictures. You always want to use a few more than you think you're going to need because some of them aren't going to turn out real well. So I chose about 9 photos out of that mix that I wanted to use. So then I go to my printer, and on my printer, I have to print with the wrong side facing up, and as you can see here, it has a little line on the back of this photo transfer paper. So I selected my first photo, I put the paper in my printer, it went in like this, and came out like this. So I have my picture on my photo transfer paper. Now I don't really want all of this stuff around the edges. So what I'm going to do, I know this is already a scary part, I'm going to just cut away all of this background. I do not want to have to sew that. So, okay, so I'm going to cut away all the background on that. And when I'm done, it's going to look like this. So this is printed on my photo transfer paper. I'm going to put this onto my fabric by following the directions on the package. On my photo transfer paper, you press it down, you let it cool for a long time. They want it really cool on this particular one. Then when you peel it off, it's going to look like this. Now you might have noticed on the first round, this text on here was the correct way. So if you have any photographs that have text or addresses or street numbers or street signs, things like that, you're going to want to remember to do a reversal before you print that, so that when you do print it onto the fabric, it's going to come right side up. So on some of these, there's going to be colors that you don't want. So I started coloring this in. I'm going to make this all match so these colors just disappear. Okay? And then with my permanent markers, I'm just going to start coloring that in because I don't want the yellow shirt. Okay, so after that's all finished, it's going to look sort of like this. And this is the part that gets really fun. Now we're going to start layering. So I've started collecting all of these different tools and shears, and these are my collection of sort of almost flesh tones. So you're going to start selecting colors for your flesh tones, for your face, for your hair, for your shirts, all of the different colors that you're going to need. And this was originally in the frame. I've taken it out of the frame now so that you can see kind of what I'm going to do next. What I did while it was in the frame, though, you can probably see, I stitched this fabric right over the top of the photograph, and I put decorative stitching using almost a matching thread. I stitched all the way around to make sure that I closed it. I closed the shape, because you're going to be cutting this away. Okay, this one has the stitching around here. These are the closed shapes. This is a closed shape here. On this one, I wanted to show you the hair because this is kind of a fun part. So this hair, I folded over several layers of the black tulle, and I stitched it on with a contrasting thread. And then I'm just going to start cutting it away. Look how easily it comes away. Okay? So you're just going to cut that away. Let's do the bottom too. We'll cut that away a little bit so you can see. And around her face, we're going to cut that away around her face. This is where the closed shape comes in, because you're going to want to get all around this. Okay, there we go. And then we would do the same. We would cut away all of these other fabrics. We would start layering the fabric up here, the black tulle or the black sheer, whatever you have, and we're going to stitch it down and create, all of your different shapes. Okay, when you're all done with that, it's going to end up pretty much like this. And I'm just showing you this one because it would be too difficult to show you all of them. But you can see that we have a lot of different pictures on this. So what we're going to have when we're all finished with all of our stitching is kind of a messy looking piece. And there's where I started off on the edge, I'm kind of coming in from all sides and it looks very messy. So once again, I would do the same thing on all of them. And I would just start cutting away, and get rid of all of this messy stuff around here. And this was kind of lucky for me. I used a white background, and I was already planning to use a white background on the. Okay, so you can kind of see how that's going to go on there. I had all of these separate units, and I just put them onto my center fabric. I stitched them on there real quick, just a little, almost a basting stitch. I put my borders on all the sides, and then I put it back on the frame. So now I'd like to show you. Okay, now on this frame, I've put my regular sewing machine right on the frame. You just mount it right on there. And this gives you the ability to do a long series of the same unit over and over and over again without having to re-hoop and re-jiggle everything that you have. I can do these all in one big long row. So I'm going to get started. I turn it on. And this is when I'm adding all of the detail. So now this is like the little outline stitches. We can kind of come down here. Okay, and as you see, as I'm going, the machine is keeping track of my stitches, so they're all going to be nice and sort of a nice regular amount of stitching, and that's because I have a stitch regulator on here. So if you're not comfortable doing free motion, sometimes the stitches get out of hand and you end up going crazy. This is really nice. That'll keep all your stitches nice and uniform. Now I'm going to shut it off. I hold and cut. That's going to cut my thread. Then I can move right over here and start doing a little bit of detail on the t-shirt. And because this moves so easily, see, it just sort of floats along. It's kind of a zen moment here. I'll do some of the frame while I'm here, stitch up around her hand. Okay, so I'm doing this sitting down, but please feel free to stand up if you feel more comfortable standing. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one because I have some more things that I want to show you here. Okay, so we're going to go along and do the same thing on all of these. As you can see, it's just really easy to stitch and just goes like crazy. I could sit here all day and just do this. It also does handwriting. if you want to just watch this really quick, I've called this piece Always Think Outside the Box. So with handwriting, show you how this works. Okay, we're going to use the automatic cutter. So now we're going to move on to the next letter. Always think we'll cut the thread, dot the I. Okay, then of course we would move on while I'm crossing the T here. We would move on to the rest of the words and finish up. And we would have across the top of here, always think outside the box. And that's what I would encourage you to do with this project, is just think outside the box. How can you use these, for instance, on a quilt border? You can get little pictures of your children walking down the sidewalk, put those around a quilt border. Put them on an apron, put them on a wall hanging. There's so many other things you can do with thread painting, and especially with this, makes it so easy that you can go from one unit to the next without having to stop and rehoop and mess around with all the other stuff. It just makes it really easy.